The dinner table was set with the blue plates Iris had picked out herself at a weekend market 3 years ago. The ones with the small yellow flowers around the rim that Nora had nearly put back because they were slightly uneven. And Iris had said, with the certainty only a 5-year-old can produce, "They're perfect because they're not perfect, Mom." Nora had bought them. Now Iris is 8. She is eating pasta with the focused energy of a child who had soccer practice and is operating on empty. Brent is on his second glass of Bordeaux and talking about a deal in Austin that is going well, which means he is talking about himself in the third person. Harmon and Wells is positioned to be the lead on this, and Nora is listening with the practiced attention of a woman who has been doing this for 11 years. Then Iris looks up. She has something in her voice when she asks things she already sort of knows. A quality of careful, deliberate neutrality that Nora recognizes as her own. The apple and the tree. "Daddy," Iris says, "why does Miss Quinn send you heart emojis?" The wine glass does not fall. The pasta does not go cold. The kitchen in their Lincoln Park townhouse continues in every visible way to be a normal Wednesday evening in September. But Brent's hand, which had been relaxed around the stem of his glass, tightens very slightly. Nora sees it. She sees it the way she has always seen the small things, the micro-expressions, the tells. Because Nora Kellish has spent 15 years working in healthcare administration, which means she has spent 15 years in rooms where people are trying to manage information they do not want to release. And she has become very good at reading the gap between what someone says and what their body already admitted. "Miss Quinn from work?" Brent says, lightly. She probably sends those to everyone. It's just how she texts. Iris accepts this with the open-handedness of a child who has not yet learned to distrust. She goes back to her pasta. Nora picks up her fork. She takes one bite. She sets the fork back down. Before this dinner, before this September, before Brent. Nora Kellish grew up in Evanston, Illinois, the daughter of a public school principal and a woman who ran the administrative office of a small pediatric clinic and treated every child who walked through the door like her own. They were not wealthy. They were present. There is a difference, and Nora understood it early. She was methodical as a child and methodical as a student. Northwestern on a partial scholarship, a master's in healthcare administration from DePaul, a first job at a clinic on the South Side that paid less than her student loan interest. She took it anyway because the work was real. She worked her way up, not dramatically, without a sudden lucky break or a powerful connection, just incrementally, intelligently, through 12 years of being the person who showed up prepared, stayed late, and told uncomfortable truths to people who needed to hear them. By 38, she was head of patient services at the Meridian Foundation, a nonprofit arm of one of Chicago's largest hospital systems. She manages a team of 11. She has overseen the foundation's expansion into 3 underserved neighborhoods on the south and west sides. Crawford Bell, the foundation's founder, told her once that she was the best hire he'd made in 30 years. He said it plainly, without ceremony. She believes he meant it. She met Brent Harmon at a charity gala at the Art Institute of Chicago 11 years ago. He was co-founding his private equity firm and running on the energy of a man about to bet everything on himself. He was charming and sharp, and he asked her questions and listened to the answers, which was what she needed someone to do. They married. They had Iris. They built the Lincoln Park townhouse and the summer habit of Michigan weekends, and the life that looks, from the outside, like the correct one. For the first 6 years, it was, or close enough. Then Brent's firm began to succeed seriously, And success changed the shape of him in a way she kept forgiving because she told herself success is stressful and stress distorts people temporarily. She had been telling herself that for 4 years. Nora does not panic. She catalogs. This is the first thing to understand about how she responds. She does not spiral. She does not lie awake catastrophizing. She lies awake, yes. But she uses the time. By the time Brent's breathing steadies into sleep beside her, she has already made a mental list of what she knows, what she suspects, and what she needs to confirm. In the morning, she gets Iris to school. She comes home. She makes coffee in the French press Iris gave her for Mother's Day, with a handmade card that said, "You deserve fancy coffee, Mom." She sits at the kitchen island with her laptop and she begins. Publicly available information first. She is not looking for drama. She is looking for pattern. Quinn Ashby joined Harman and Wells Capital 14 months ago. LinkedIn, Columbia MBA, previous firm in New York, 22 connections in common with Brent. Professional photograph, polished, careful, the kind that takes 3 sessions to get right. She goes through the shared calendar on the family iPad, an old habit from when they used it to coordinate Iris's schedule. Brent hasn't updated his access in 2 years. The oversight is small and telling. She finds 12 client dinners in the past 4 months where no client name is listed. 8 late strategy sessions. A weekend in October blocked as Austin deal work, staying over, that corresponds to a hotel charge on the Amex she handles the points for. She searches the hotel, the Dewberry, Chicago. She has never heard of it. She looks it up. It is 11 minutes from their house. He stayed overnight 11 minutes from their house and told her he was in Austin. She closes the laptop. She sits very still with her coffee. She is not going to cry, not yet, not here, not alone at the kitchen island where Iris eats cereal every morning. She is going to call Nora Fisk, and she is going to do it right now. And she is going to say the thing out loud to another person so that it becomes real in a way she can work with. Nora Fisk has been an investigative producer at a Chicago news station for 12 years, which means she has spent 12 years professionally reconstructing timelines and finding information people believed was hidden. She does not use this skill often in her personal life because she considers it rude. She makes an exception for Nora Kellish. They meet at a coffee shop on Armitage Avenue. Nora's neighborhood, 15 minutes from Nora's house, good light and loud enough that no one is listening to anyone else's conversation. Nora arrives first. She orders for both of them from memory. She has known Nora's coffee order for 18 years. Nora tells her everything. Nora listens without interrupting, which is a professional discipline. She takes one note on the back of a receipt she finds in her coat pocket. Dewberry/October/Quinn Ashby/14 months. When Nora finishes, Nora says, "How sure are you?" 90%. What would make it 100? Documentation. Nora nods. Give me 72 hours. Don't confront him. Don't change anything. Don't let him know you're looking. Nora says, "What are you going to do?" "My job," Nora says simply. In 72 hours, Nora has confirmed the following through sources and public records she will never fully detail, even to Nora. The relationship between Brent and Quinn Ashby began 16 months ago, not 14. It began before Quinn was hired at the firm. Brent created the junior partner position specifically so Quinn could be brought on. Porter Wells, Brent's co-founder, knew within 4 months and said nothing. The Dewberry stay was not the only one. There were 6 hotel reservations over 13 months, all on the personal Amex. There was a weekend in Saugatuck, a lakeside town in Michigan they had stopped visiting as a family. because Brent was too busy, that he spent with Quinn instead. Saugatuck was where Nora and Brent had their first anniversary trip. He took someone else there. Lenora does not say this gently. She says it directly because she knows Nora, and Nora needs the full picture before she can move. Here is what no one expects. On the Thursday after Lenora's report, Nora receives an email. The sender address is one she doesn't recognize, a personal Gmail, not a work address. The subject line says only, "I think you should know something." She almost deletes it. She opens it instead. The email is from Quinn Ashby. It is 3 paragraphs. It is written carefully, the kind of careful that means someone drafted it more than once. It says, "I became aware recently that there are things Brent told you about your financial situation that are not accurate. I'm not writing to justify what I did or to ask for anything. I'm writing because I work in finance and I read contracts, and I saw something I can't unknow. And I think you have a right to know it before he controls what you find out and when." Nora reads it twice. Then she reads it a third time, more slowly. Quinn is not confessing an affair. She is not apologizing. She is flagging something financial. Nora writes back one line, "Tell me what you saw." Quinn's reply arrives within the hour. She has found, in the course of normal partnership work, that Brent restructured the firm's equity split 14 months ago, around the same time their relationship began. The restructuring reduced Porter Wells's stake by 8% and redirected those points into a new holding entity. The holding entity has a managing member listed as B. Harmon, and a secondary stakeholder listed under a name Quinn did not recognize at first. It is an LLC registered in Delaware. The name of the LLC is a string of letters that means nothing, but the registered agent address is a condo in River North. Nora knows that condo address. It is the address of Brent's mother, who died 3 years ago, and whose estate Brent handled entirely on his own. She calls Sylvia Tang the same afternoon. The morning meeting runs 3 hours. Sylvia Tang is a small woman with reading glasses. She takes off and on with precision, and the kind of focused calm that comes from having sat in more high-stakes rooms than most people experience in a lifetime. Her office on Michigan Avenue has a view of the lake on a clear day. Today is clear. Neither of them looks at it. Nora brings everything she has: household Amex statements, joint investment account records, the documentation of their shared assets from the last tax return, the property deed on the Lincoln Park townhouse, the LLC name, and the River North condo address. Sylvia works through it in sequence. The Delaware LLC, registered under a name that has no obvious connection to Brent, has received 3 transfers from a Harmon and Wells operating account over the past 22 months. Total, $412,000. The transfers are logged as consulting fees to an entity that appears, on paper, to provide strategic advisory services to the firm. The entity has no website, no employees, no verifiable deliverables. The River North condo, registered to Brent's deceased mother's estate, an estate Brent closed without a probate attorney, is listed on city records as an investment property. It was never disclosed on any joint financial document Nora signed. He's been skimming, Sylvia says. Not from clients, from the firm itself, from his own partnership draws, and from marital assets. The LLC is the vehicle. The condo is the storage. Nora sits very still. How long? Based on what you've given me, 22 months. Possibly longer if earlier transfers used different routing. The same time as the affair. Likely related. Affairs are expensive. So is the exit planning that sometimes comes with them. Exit planning. She lets those 2 words settle. He's been planning to leave, she says. He's been creating the financial architecture to do it in a way that leaves you with the visible assets and hides the liquid ones. Sylvia sets her glasses on the desk. He may not have committed to leaving yet, but he was building the door. Nora looks out at the lake for the first time. She does not confront Brent for 12 days. This is deliberate. Sylvia tells her to wait until the forensic financial review is complete. Lenora tells her to let the documentation build. Crawford Bell, who Nora finally calls on a Sunday afternoon, simply because she needs to speak to someone who has known her longer than her marriage. Listens for 20 minutes and then says, "You've always done your best work when you've had time to think. Don't let him rush this by acting before you're ready." She holds it for 12 days. She makes Iris's lunches. She attends the Foundation's quarterly board meeting and presents the expansion update and fields 3 questions from board members who call her indispensable, a word she has started hearing differently. She reads to Iris every night. They are working through a book about a girl who discovers she can read maps nobody else can see. And Iris keeps asking Nora what she would do if she found a secret map. Nora says, "I'd follow it all the way to the end." On day 12, Sylvia calls and says, "We have enough. The evidence is complete. The financial picture is clear. And there is one more thing Sylvia found, something Nora did not know to look for, that changes the shape of everything. The Delaware LLC, the one receiving the diverted firm funds, has a secondary stakeholder who is not Brent's mother. It is Porter Wells. Porter Wells, Brent's co-founder, the man who knew about the affair for more than a year and said nothing, is not just complicit in the infidelity. He is a named financial partner in the concealment scheme. He benefited directly from the equity restructuring that moved his own points into the LLC. Brent did not just betray Nora. He built a structure in which his business partner helped him hide it, and both of them profited from the architecture. She sits across from him at the same kitchen table. She does not use the good plates. She does not make food. There is nothing on the table except her hands, flat on the wood, and a manila folder she places in the center without opening. Brent comes home at 6:30. He looks at the empty table. He looks at Nora. He does not ask about Iris, which tells her something about where his mind goes first. She's with Lenora, Nora says. He sits. She does not raise her voice. She does not cry. She opens the folder and she walks him through it the way she walks her team through a budget presentation, clearly, sequentially, with evidence for each point. The timeline of the affair. The Dewberry. Saugatuck. The Delaware LLC. The $412,000. The River North condo. Porter Wells as secondary stakeholder. She watches his face move through denial, recalculation, and something that looks, briefly, like relief. The relief of a man whose secret has exhausted him. He says, "You don't understand how complicated this got." She says, "Walk me through which part is complicated. Is it the LLC, or the condo, or Saugatuck?" He says, "Nora." She says, "Which part?" He is a man trained in negotiation. He goes quiet, and she watches him choose a strategy, and she watches him find that none of his strategies work in this room today because she has already anticipated all of them. Finally, he says, "I was going to tell you." She looks at him. "I was going to tell you," he says again, "when the timing was right." She closes the folder. "The timing," she says carefully, "was 22 months of financial concealment while I managed this house and raised our daughter and ran a foundation that serves 2,000 patients a year and believed I was in a real marriage." She stands. "Sylvia Tang is my attorney. You'll hear from her office by Monday. I'd like you to stay somewhere else tonight." He stares. I'm not asking, she says. The next morning, Iris comes downstairs and finds the guest toothbrush in the bathroom and her father's shoes absent from the front door. She sits at the kitchen island with her cereal, and she is quiet in the way that is not the absence of thought, but the presence of too much of it. Nora makes oatmeal and puts it in front of her daughter and sits across from her. Daddy isn't here, Iris says. He's staying somewhere else for a little while, Nora says. Iris stirs the oatmeal. Is it because of Miss Quinn? Nora holds very still. You knew? She says carefully. Iris looks at her with the patient eyes of a child who has been waiting for an adult to catch up. I saw the texts on his phone when he left it on the counter at Grandpa Bell's birthday dinner. Miss Quinn sent a lot of them. I didn't read them all, but I saw the pictures. She says it simply, no drama, no attempt to weaponize it. She simply saw a thing and filed it and waited. I wanted to tell you, Iris says, but I didn't know how, and I didn't want you to be sad. Nora comes around the island and sits beside her daughter. You have never once, Nora says, needed to protect me. That's my job. Your job is to be 8. Iris leans against her. Are you sad? Yes, Nora says, because honesty is what Iris deserves, and Iris has been honest. Is it going to be okay? Nora puts her arms around her. Yes, she says. Different, but okay. Iris is quiet for a moment. Mom, she says. I think you're the strongest person I know. I told Daddy that once. Nora says, what did he say? Porter Wells does not expect to be named. He has operated for 16 months on the understanding that what Brent built, Brent would contain. He put his name on the LLC because Brent told him it was a tax efficiency vehicle. Standard practice for managing partnership draws in a high-revenue year. He told himself this was true because it was easier than the alternative. He finds out his name is in Sylvia Tang's discovery documents on a Tuesday morning, via a call from his own attorney. He calls Brent immediately. Brent does not answer. He calls Brent's cell, Brent's office line, and Brent's personal email and receives nothing back for 4 hours, at which point he understands that Brent is in the process of crafting a version of events that does not include taking responsibility for Porter's involvement. He calls Lenora Fisk. This is not because he knows her well. He knows her the way Chicago professional circles know each other, through 2 or 3 mutual events. But he knows she is Nora's friend. And he knows that the document trail Sylvia is building will be public in the divorce proceedings, and that the Harmon and Wells name will appear in it, and that his own name will appear in it, and that he has a choice between getting ahead of it or being buried under it. He calls Lenora and asks to speak with Nora directly. Lenora relays the request. Nora says, no. He calls Sylvia Tang's office. Sylvia takes the call. He offers a full disclosure, a written statement detailing what he knew, when he knew it, and the actual purpose of the Delaware LLC, in exchange for being named as a cooperative witness rather than a co-defendant in the financial fraud claim. Sylvia tells Nora. Nora says, what does cooperating get us? Sylvia says, everything. His testimony confirms the concealment was deliberate and ties the timeline to the equity restructuring. It closes every door Brent might otherwise try to exit through. Nora thinks. Crawford Bell calls her on a Thursday afternoon. She almost doesn't pick up. She is reviewing the forensic financial report with Sylvia's associate, and she is in the middle of a number. But Crawford calls twice in a row, which means it is not a routine call. She steps outside and answers. Crawford says, how are you holding up? She tells him honestly, some days better, some days like the floor gave way. He listens without filling the space with reassurance. which is one of the things she has always valued about him. Then he says, "I need to tell you something, and I want you to hear it clearly." She waits. He says, "The board met informally this week. I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations at the foundation at the end of the year. Doctor's orders. The back is worse than we hoped." He pauses. "I want to propose you as my successor, not interim director. Director, full appointment. I've spoken to 6 of the 8 board members already." She's quiet. "Crawford," she says. "I know the timing is difficult," he says. "It might actually be the right timing. You need something that's entirely yours right now. And the foundation needs someone who understands it in their bones." She thinks about the patients on the south side, the 3 new clinic sites, the team of 11 who report to her, the work she has done for 15 years that she has always described as serving someone else's vision when it has, for many years, been equally hers. "I need to think about it," she says. "Take as long as you need," Crawford says. "But Nora..." He stops. When he speaks again, his voice is quieter. "You have run this place for the past 4 years and given Brent Harmon's name as much prominence as yours in every room you walked into. I want you to hear this. You are the reason the foundation is what it is. Not me. Not anyone else. You." She stands outside her office building on a Thursday afternoon in October and looks at the Chicago skyline, and she lets that sentence arrive without deflecting it. He tries to control the narrative. This is what Brent Harmon does. It is what he has always done and what he is good at. He is charming and articulate, and he has spent 20 years building relationships in Chicago's business community. And he calls in every one of those relationships in the month of October. He tells people, carefully, in the language of mutual friends and charitable interpretation, that the marriage had been struggling for years, that they had grown apart, that the financial situation is more complicated than it's been presented, that he hopes they can keep this civil for Iris's sake. He frames himself as a reasonable man, caught in an unfortunate situation. 2 of their mutual acquaintances call Nora with variations on this story. She does not respond to them directly. She says, "The legal process is underway. I'm not commenting on the details." What she does not say: Porter Wells has already submitted his written statement. The forensic accountant Sylvia retained has reconstructed the complete financial trail. The Delaware LLC has been formally identified as a marital asset concealment vehicle. The documentation is 411 pages. Brent does not know exactly what Porter said. He finds out on a Wednesday when Sylvia files the amended petition. He calls his own attorney, his 3rd in 6 weeks, which is a data point in itself. And by the end of the call, he understands that the version of events he has been presenting to mutual friends is not the version that is going to appear in the public record. His attorney tells him, "Settle." He pushes back. He negotiates. He proposes terms that Sylvia describes to Nora as optimistic on his part. Sylvia counters. The negotiation takes 6 weeks. During those 6 weeks, the story does not fully surface publicly. The legal process is not yet in the press. But Harmon and Wells Capital begins to experience the quiet social weather of an organization under reputational pressure. 2 institutional investors request transparency meetings. A 3rd declines to renew a commitment. She does not expect this. She is not looking for this. She wants to be very clear about that. Devin Lowe is a pediatric surgeon at the hospital system that houses the Meridian Foundation. They have been in the same building for 3 years. They have been in the same meetings, the quarterly coordination calls between the clinical side and the foundation, for 2 years. She knows his name the way you know the names of people who are reliably present and professional and take their work seriously. She does not know him the way you know someone. In November, 3 weeks after she tells Crawford yes, she is working late on the budget projections for the new clinic site. The office is empty. She goes to the staff kitchen to refill her coffee, and he is there, also late, also with coffee, reading something on his phone with the concentrated frown of a person making a decision. He looks up. "You're here late?" he says. "Budget," she says. "Clinic expansion." She looks at him. "You follow that?" "I have 4 patients from the Pilsen neighborhood who come to us because of the outreach your team built. I follow it closely." He refills his coffee. He says without making it complicated, "I heard Crawford is stepping back. I heard you're taking over." "Yes. That's the best possible news for the foundation," he says. Directly, without flattery. Just a fact he has recorded. She looks at him for a moment. They talk for 40 minutes in the staff kitchen. About the clinic expansion, about the patient population, about a proposal he has been working on to integrate pediatric surgical follow-up into the foundation's community care model. He is clear and specific, and he listens when she speaks the way people do when they are genuinely interested, not performing interest. She gets home at 9:30. Iris is with Nora tonight. The house is quiet. She sits at the kitchen island with her coffee, and she thinks, with a slight sense of surprise, that was the best conversation I've had in months. December. The divorce is moving. The financial recovery is substantial. Sylvia's team has identified and ring-fenced the full value of the concealed assets, including the Delaware LLC, the River North condo, and 3 years of understated partnership distributions. The total is significantly more than Nora had known existed. Brent's attorney has shifted from resistance to management of damage. And in the middle of all of this, Iris has a holiday concert at school. She's playing the recorder in a small ensemble. 3 songs, the last one a version of a carol that involves a somewhat uncertain high note, which Iris has been practicing with the focused commitment she brings to everything she decides matters. Nora is there. She's in the 3rd row with Nora, who took the afternoon off because she always takes the afternoon off for Iris's school events, the way reliable people do. Brent is there too, on the other side of the auditorium, in the last row, in a coat Nora doesn't recognize. He looks tired in a way that has nothing to do with sleep. Iris walks on stage with her ensemble. She's wearing the blue sweater with the small embroidered stars on the collar that Nora bought her in October, and she holds her recorder with both hands, and she scans the audience until she finds Nora. She smiles. Not at both of them. At Nora. And then she plays. The high note, when it comes, is not uncertain at all. It is clear and true, and Nora's eyes fill without her permission, which is not about the note. It is about the small, blue-sweatered person who practiced something hard until she got it right, and then did it in public without flinching. After the concert, Iris runs to Nora first. She hugs her with the full-body commitment of a child who means it. Then she turns and goes to Brent, and she hugs him too. Smaller, briefer, but real. She does not choose between them. She does not punish him. She is 8 years old and wiser than either of her parents in that specific moment. January. The settlement is reached. It is not fast and it is not painless, but it is thorough. Sylvia Tang is thorough the way surgeons are thorough. She does not leave anything inside that shouldn't be there. The final terms. Nora retains the Lincoln Park townhouse, which is the marital home and primary residence for Iris. She receives 55% of the identified marital assets, which with the recovered concealed funds is a larger number than it would have been had Brent's financial architecture remained intact. The Delaware LLC's value is fully recovered. The River North condo, which was never disclosed as a marital asset, is liquidated and added to the settlement. Brent retains his stake in Harmon and Wells Capital, which is now a firm of one since Porter Wells's dissolution of the partnership was finalized in December. He retains his car and his personal accounts. He does not retain the narrative he tried to build. Custody. Nora has primary residence. Brent has generous visitation, 2 evenings a week and alternating weekends. Shared decision-making on education and medical care. His attorney signs on a Tuesday morning. Brent is not present. Sylvia tells Nora later that this is unusual. Most people want to be in the room for the final signature. Brent was not. What do you think that means? Nora asks. I think it means he couldn't look at the number, Sylvia says. Nora considers this. She does not feel triumph, exactly. She feels the specific relief of a situation that has been resolved completely and honestly, and with every relevant fact on the table. She feels the ending of something that deserved to end, and the first clear sense that what comes next is not reconstruction, but genuine beginning. She calls Crawford from the car outside Sylvia's office building. It's done, she says. He says, how do you feel? She looks out at Michigan Avenue in January. Gray sky, good coats, people moving with purpose in the cold. Here is what the audience deserves to know. Quinn Ashby left Harmon and Wells Capital in November, 3 months before the settlement. Once the legal documents made it clear that the firm's foundation had been built partly on a concealment structure she had unknowingly participated in. She returned to New York. She's not a villain in the clean sense. She was also lied to, also used as a piece in something she didn't fully understand. But she made choices, and choices have weight. She sent Nora one final email in January, after the settlement. It said, I hope you and your daughter are well. I'm sorry I was part of what happened, even the part I didn't know about. I don't expect a response. Nora did not respond, but she read it twice, which is its own kind of acknowledgement. Brent Harmon. He does not collapse dramatically. He is not destroyed in the public sense. He is reduced, which is, arguably, the more precise consequence. Harmon and Wells without Wells is a smaller firm with a clouded reputation and a managing director who spent 2 years building a private architecture that a forensic accountant dismantled in 6 weeks. 3 institutional clients quietly move their relationships elsewhere. He is still in Chicago. He picks up Iris on his evenings and brings her back on time. He does not make things difficult, which is the one thing Nora gives him credit for in the aftermath. He asked her once, in the parking lot of Iris's school in February, whether she thought things could have gone differently. She thought about it honestly. Yes, she said, if you'd been someone different. But you weren't, and neither was I, for staying as long as I did. He nodded. She walked to her car. February. The formal board vote is unanimous. Nora Kellish is appointed director of the Meridian Foundation, effective March 1st. Crawford Bell attends the vote in person. With his back brace visible under his jacket, and his expression the particular mix of pride and relief of a person handing something precious to someone trustworthy. After the vote, there is a brief reception, the modest kind the foundation favors, coffee and pastries in the conference room. Nothing excessive. Several board members shake Nora's hand and say things she receives gracefully without deflecting. Crawford holds her arm for a moment and says only, "Don't change what works. Change what should have changed already. You'll know the difference." She already knows. Her first week as director, she meets with each department head individually. She listens more than she speaks. She asks, What is the thing you've needed someone to authorize for longer than it should have taken? She writes down every answer. By the end of the week, she has a list of 7 things she can move on immediately, and 3 that will take the board. She begins on the immediate ones. The first is the Pilsen Clinic site. The one Devin Lowe's proposal cited. The one that has been in the planning stage for 18 months because no one had signed the final authorization. She signs it on a Thursday. Devin finds out through the department coordination email chain. He texts her. She gave him her number at the staff kitchen coffee conversation, which felt right at the time and still does. A single line. The Pilsen site. Thank you. She texts back. It was already there. I just got here, he replies. That's the definition of good leadership. She looks at this for a moment. She's standing in her new office, Crawford's old office, now hers, with the lake view she's learning to look at. And she holds her phone, and she thinks about all the years she spent being the person who made things possible for someone else, and never said the word mine in relation to any of it. March. The first dinner is at a small Italian restaurant in Lincoln Square. Her suggestion, because she knows the neighborhood, and she wanted to be on familiar ground. He is already there when she arrives, which she decides to notice as a good sign. They talk for 3 hours. Not about the foundation, or not only. About Chicago. About their families. About the fact that he grew up in Cincinnati and came here for his residency and never left because, he says, I found the kind of work that makes you stay. About the fact that she grew up in Evanston and left for school and came back because, she says, I found the same thing. He asks about Iris with genuine interest, not the performed interest of someone going through the expected questions, but actual curiosity. What is she like? What does she care about? What did she say when you told her about the foundation appointment? Nora tells him. Iris said, Obviously, Mom. You've basically been running it anyway. He laughs. She's right, he says. She usually is. Nora says. He walks her to her car afterward. The March air is cold but clear, and the street is quiet, and he says, I'd like to do this again. She says, Yes. He says, Soon? She says, Soon. He does not kiss her. He waits. She respects the waiting. She realizes on the drive home, looking forward to when the waiting ends. Not urgently, not desperately, but the way you look forward to the next chapter of a book that has finally started going somewhere worth going. Iris is awake when she gets home, technically past her bedtime, but clearly having waited. She's sitting on the couch with her library book, performing reading. How was it? She says. Good, Nora says. Iris studies her. Your face looks different. Different how? September again. The kitchen in the Lincoln Park townhouse is warm. The blue plates with the yellow flower rims are on the table. Iris insisted, which is the right call. There is chicken in the oven, and Iris is doing homework at one end of the table with her sneakers still on from soccer practice. Same as always. Devin is in the living room. He and Iris have developed a habit. He quizzes her on the science questions in her homework, which she resists and then secretly enjoys because he makes it interesting. She is currently explaining to him with some authority the difference between igneous and sedimentary rock, which she learned 2 weeks ago and now considers personal knowledge. 1 year ago, Iris asked a question at this table and opened a door. The door led through the worst months of Nora's adult life. Through the documentation and the confrontation and the legal process and the months of managing everything alone and telling Iris it would be okay because it would be, even when she didn't know yet exactly how. And it led here, to this kitchen, to this September evening, to the work she runs and the team she leads, and the Pilsen Clinic that opened in June and served 400 patients in its first 6 weeks. To Devon in the living room, arguing pleasantly with her daughter about rocks. To a life that is not perfect but is, for the first time in years, entirely honest. Crawford came to the Pilsen opening. He stood in the doorway of the new clinic with his back brace and his particular smile, and he said to Nora, "This is what it looks like when someone does the job right." She told him it was his vision. He said, "I had the vision. You built the thing." She has stopped arguing with compliments. Iris comes to the kitchen. She looks at the plates and then at Nora with a slightly expectant expression. "Are we having the good chicken?" she says. "Yes," Nora says. "Is Devon staying?" "If he wants to." Iris raises her voice toward the living room without turning her head. "Devon, are you staying for dinner?" His voice comes back. "Obviously. It smells incredible." Iris looks at Nora. October, 1 year and 1 month after the dinner with the blue plates. Nora is sitting on the back steps of the Lincoln Park townhouse on a Sunday morning with coffee and the newspaper and the particular quality of October light in Chicago that is sharp and golden and brief enough to make you pay attention. The house is quiet. Iris is still sleeping, a weekend luxury she has begun to discover now that she is 9. Devon left an hour ago to cover a morning call shift. He kissed her at the door and said he'd be back by noon, and she said good, and it was ordinary, and ordinary is the thing she has been working toward. She thinks about the year. The foundation has served 3,000 patients in the expanded footprint. Crawford came in for the 6-month review and sat in the back of the conference room and said nothing, which was the loudest praise he had ever given her. The board renewed her contract for 3 years with a raise she accepted without negotiating down, which is something the old version of her would have done reflexively, out of the habit of making herself smaller to make others comfortable. She is learning to stop doing that. Brent picks Iris up on Tuesdays and every other weekend. He is a better father in the specific time he has than he was when he was present but absent. Iris has said this, in her particular way. Dad pays more attention now. It is not forgiveness. It is observation. But it is also, Nora thinks, a kind of grace that Iris came to entirely on her own. She thinks about what she has. The work, the clinic, the apartment, the view, a daughter who draws her as a person who keeps going, a man who shows up and listens and waits at the right moments, a best friend who picks up on the first ring, a mentor who handed her something real and trusted her to carry it, and this, the particular Saturday morning quiet of a life she chose, rebuilt from the truth a daughter told at dinner over pasta on blue, uneven plates. She picks up her coffee. She looks at the October light. She is 42 years old. She is not who she was a year ago, and she is not afraid of who she is now. And somewhere inside her, very quietly, the woman who sold herself short for 11 years has finally stopped apologizing for taking up exactly as much space as she was always supposed to. Conversational, stoic wisdom, call to action. And just like that, Nora's story finds its ending. But hey, if you're still here with me right now, at this very moment, that tells me something real. It tells me something in this story reached you. Maybe it was Iris asking that one question at the dinner table. Maybe it was the way Nora held herself together for 12 days before she said a single word. Or maybe it was just the quiet of that October morning at the end. Coffee, good light, a life that finally fit. You know, the Stoics had this idea that sits with me every time I tell a story like this. Epictetus wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Nora didn't react with rage. She didn't collapse. She documented. She prepared. She waited until she was the version of herself she trusted. And then she walked into that kitchen and told the truth without flinching. That's not a movie superpower. That's a real human choice. And it's one any of us can make. Marcus Aurelius also wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Nora couldn't control what Brent did. She couldn't control the 14 months of lies, or the hidden credit card, or the Saugatuck weekend he gave to someone else. But she controlled how she responded. She controlled what she built after. And that's where the real story lives. Not in the betrayal, but in what she chose to do with the truth once she finally had it. So if something in Nora's journey stayed with you, if it reminded you of your own strength, or gave you permission to stop excusing what you deserve better, then hold on to that. Go ahead and hit like if this story moved you. Share it with someone who might need it tonight. And subscribe, because we have more of these stories coming, and every single one of them is made for the people who stay until the end. You're not alone in this. You really aren't. Before we close, an important note for everyone watching. This entire story, every character, every scene, every conversation, is a work of fiction created purely for entertainment, storytelling, and emotional reflection. Nora Kellish, Brent Harmon, Quinn Ashby, Iris, Lenora Fisk, Crawford Bell, Devin Lowe, Sylvia Tang, and Porter Wells are completely fictional characters. They are not based on any real individuals, living or deceased. Harmon and Wells Capital, the Meridian Foundation, and all other organizations depicted in this story do not exist. The legal situations, financial events, and personal relationships portrayed are entirely dramatized scenarios designed to explore universal themes: loyalty, betrayal, honesty, and the courage to begin again. Any resemblance to actual persons, organizations, or real events is purely coincidental and fully unintentional. This content is not intended as factual news reporting, legal advice, or accusations against any real person or entity. It exists solely for creative storytelling, emotional connection, and personal reflection. Thank you for watching with an understanding heart.